What's up, y'all? Keith Dykes here with W.K.D Construction, and welcome to my channel. On today's video, we're gonna get started on the front porch right there. We gotta get that plastic off of there, man. That is horrible looking from the road, but we just did that kind of temporarily just to try to keep some of the weather out of there. But shoot, we've had wind and rain storms, and it just blew it all loose, and it looks horrible. So we're gonna get started on the front porch here at the Melton Farm project. If you're just now joining us here at the W.K.D Construction channel, I really appreciate it. And to get up to speed on the Melton Farm project, I'll go ahead and put a link. I'll go ahead and put the whole series up, and you can go back and binge watch the whole thing and get you up to speed where we are now. And the front porch is going to be just a little different than the back porch. If you haven't seen the back porch, I'll put a link up right here, and you can go back and watch how we built the back porch. But the front porch is basically going to be 8 feet wide, 52 feet long. It will have a 412 pitch tied into the 812 pitch, which is similar to the back porch, but we're going to build a 24-foot gable right in the center of the front porch, and we're going to install some rough sawn cedar just to give it that extra curb appeal, and yeah, just kind of cut that long roof, that long front porch up with the gable. We are going to build it with the same principles as we did the back porch. Kind of put the LVL headers in the air, built them with some posts underneath them. We will run our ceiling joist, try to get everything squared up, and then come back and build the gable, rafter it, and tie it into the roof with some valley rafters, and then later on, after we get it all decked and everything, once we get all the structure built, later on when we start finishing it, then we will go ahead and build the timber frame beam truss and kind of piece it into the gable there. So I'm gonna quit talking and we're gonna get with it, okay? Let's go. So the first thing we're gonna do is we'll have to find the outline of the porch and where we basically want the structure to go. Of course, we need to make sure it's square to the house. So we'll get that outline chalked on the ground, and then we can kind of find where the gable is gonna be centered, because we're going to have a 24-foot span. We're going to have a 24-foot gable. So we're going to have a 24-foot span, and we'll have 4 posts across the front. So this will be roughly 14.5 feet span, 14.5 feet, and then 24 in the middle, roughly 20, maybe 23, somewhere in there. I don't know exactly yet. Well, I'll let you know once I get it all laid out on the ground. Alright, so the first thing we did was, like on the other side, we cut a beam pocket for the LVL to set into. We got it 92 inches from our notch to the outside of the header. So we're going to mount this one, double it up, then go to the other end, mount it, and then we'll be able to laser across. Should have 1 3/4 inch difference. So put the level on top of it, got our post, that way we know it's exactly level now, and then just took a turnbuckle and stiffened it back here, that way we know it's in line with the wall. We did a diagonal measurement from over there to the outside, that way we know it's square with the edge of the house, square with the front of the house, and in line with the side of the house. All right, so we are going to have basically 4 series of headers that come out and tie into this main long 52-foot beam. So we've got the laser set up, laser dotted all the way down there, and that will give us something we can measure this beam to. And then we've got a beam pocket there. Take you inside, show you what we got. So we have the header sitting here, and then we just furred this up with 2 3/4, put a stud here, and then we'll be able to fasten that header into here. That way it won't pull out.
Better.
Oh, jeez, this guy's been waiting the whole time. Take 2. She's tight. Tight like a tiger.
Coming, ½ inch.
Spit on it. And those screws were these. Those were the 10-inch. Nope, sorry, 8-inch Simpson timber screws. That way we went through that 3.5-inch beam and got some good meat into that other beam. So we did a little fine tuning, set the laser up, run it from one end to the other, measured where our posts were at, and we had to shim them a couple posts to get it level. Well, all the headers on the front porch are complete. Like this little section right here is going to be a flat ceiling, so we'll get our ceiling joist on here. From that header to that header is going to be vaulted, and then that far header will be a flat ceiling as well. So we'll have ceiling joist on that end section, this end section with rafters, 412, and then our gable will go up over the middle, and we'll tie back in and do some valley rafters into the main roof there. Installing these ceiling joists, and we need a little persuasion. So we got the old come along out and got it in. You can see the string we got from here to there, because we knew this is all laser from one end to the other. So we just string this little section. Brent screw his, and then Steve can screw his into the trusses. Always something. Always something. I love owning my own equipment, but damn it, when it messes up, I'm responsible. We're having electrical issues with the starter on the forklift. It's been a pain in the butt every time I try to start it. I got to move the gear shifter, the parking brake, something, or get out and shake the wires or tap the starter. So something's going on, and I got to get it fixed. But I went and got some materials from Paris Building Supply, and Steve and Brent, they run a hog's trough across this little section, and then got the ceiling joist with another little hog's trough on that section. And then in the morning we'll come back and we will rafter these two end in pieces and then get started on this gable. Son of a! Got our first rafter for the porch figured out. Took us a couple times to get it right. I actually dropped it down to 3.5 pitch instead of a 412 just to get it down on the roof a little bit. I thought it would look just look a little better. Plus we're going to be using metal, so the 3.5 will be perfectly fine for water runoff. But we put this one on, and then we actually put it over onto the other side, marked it up onto the roof, and then we chalked the line all the way across there, and then that will give us something to measure to as we go down through there. So I laid the rafters, laid them out to where they will be setting directly on top of the trusses. That way when you fasten them down to the roof, you can get down into that truss and really get a firm hold instead of just relying on the roof sheathing, the zip board, to hold it down. So we can get good wood to wood contact, and that sucker will be there. So Brent and I yesterday worked on the forklift for a couple hours, and I hope we got it. We think it was a connectivity issue from the ground or the hot wire to the starter. There was kind of a big cluster of wires, and I don't think it was just having good contact, because every time I turned the key when we was having problems, it would just click. So we cleaned everything up, rerouted some wires, and it's been starting up ever since. So hopefully we got it fixed. A little tip: if you run into a situation where we're raftering on both sides, you're coming from the outside working your way in, I found up top where my gable truss is, and I found the outside of that, and then we set our first rafter to that, because we know that the gable truss is, and we strung the gable truss, we know it's plumb, we know everything is right about that. So we set our first rafter to it, and then we will pull layout that way, because if your trusses are off just a little bit, they may not be just perfect, because they will have a little wave to them as you run your decking. So that way you can pull from the outside and work your way that way, and you know this series of rafters will be correct. All right, so we got this little gable decked up, and man, it really changes the look of the house. And then once we put that gable on there, man, it's really gonna look sharp. We got this end of the gable, we've got it zip walled and closed up, and now we're gonna cut off these tails, get these fascia on there, and kind of get these set for decking, and then move over and set up our scaffold or forklift and everything to start working on this gable. So we got old Rosie. We plumbed we run our string, then you plumb down with a torpedo, and then set little Rosie to that angle, and then you can mark every single one, and we'll cut those tails off and put on some fascia. But if you got a situation like this where you get fascia on this side, and a gable, go ahead and string from one end to the other, because these fascias are going to tie into this gable, and it still needs to be straight regardless. So just use a string. Does Howdy Doody have wooden ball? It's ready to go. Keep the planer handy. Gotta use it. We're gonna figure out our rafter length. So I got my Construction Master Pro app. We're gonna do 11 feet 6 inch run. We want an 8-inch pitch. That gives us a rise of 7 foot 8 inches at a diagonal of 13 foot 9 and 7/8. So I got all that wrote down, and that will be the length of our rafter from our cut plane, minus 3/4 of an inch for our ridge pole, because we're going to have a 2x4, or actually a 2x8 ridge pole. So this is my cut line right here, which is 4 1/4. I want my heel height to be 4 1/4. So I cut this one at my measurement from this point to the top, and then I'm just going to use my first one as my pattern. And I will not have a bird's mouth, because it will be all just setting directly on top of the header, so I won't have a bird's mouth. This is going to be the end, and this is going to be setting right on the roof, or right on the header rather, sorry. So I just set my miter saw up on 33 degrees, which is an 812, or right at it. To get more consistent cuts instead of using a skill saw. But a skill saw works too. So before we get carried away and cut them all, we're gonna do a dry run test fit. Make sure it works. Well, that definitely adds a little curb appeal to the front of the house. You got that little section, it's all self-supporting. We did put a temporary post underneath the LVL, then I'll probably do another temporary post in the middle just to kind of hold everything. Then we'll get it all decked, and it'll kind of hold itself. But we'll just put some temporary bracing in there. And then once all that gets done, later on I'm going to utilize and use the LVLs as part of the cedar truss. We'll go ahead and wrap that in cedar, and then I will get probably some 6x8s, and we will truss out the top and do some sort of decorative, probably metal brackets or something, just to dress it up. But I wanted to utilize or use the LVL structurally across there, because I was afraid at 24 feet that cedar wouldn't do very good. So I wanted to get that structure, and I actually sent it to my engineer friends at Power Truss, and they told me that would be okay. So I may have to use a little angle iron and hide it to keep it from rolling, but that will work. There's the gable. We've got our valley chalked onto the other side decking, so tomorrow we will take some 2x10s, rip a bevel on them, install them up the valley, and then we can rafter to that 2x10, and it will give it nice wood to fasten to, and we're not just relying on the zip sheathing. And then Brent right here and Steve, they're taping the top of that LVL because it may rain tomorrow, and that way water won't get in there and swell that dude up. All right, we're fixing to cut the ridge pole at the top, and to make sure it is square with the house. You don't really have anything to measure off of. We did take a string, we leveled across, took a string and made sure it's straight, but that doesn't particularly mean that that ridge pole is super straight. So let me show you inside. So what I did was I took the ridge pole and I lasered down and I found where it goes. Went to that wall, measured over, went to this wall, measured over, found me a center line, which is what my ridge pole is supposed to be. And then we get the laser on there, got it up top. Hold on, see there? So we get the laser up there, drilled a hole, and then that way we were able to check and make sure that that was the center of our ridge pole. And if you need to adjust, you can move it right to left if need be, but we didn't. It happened to be just right on, but that way you can check yourself that way, is make sure you've got a square point and then plumb up, go through the roof decking and then adjust to that point. If you need to find the exact pitch, I know that they specify whatever the pitch is, but you need to find the exact pitch because we're gonna have to set the ridge pole up onto that roof. Just take your framing or speed square, I'll get it out, and a level. Oop. There we go. It's a 7.5. So that will give you your exact pitch. All right, so I took a 2x6 and just did a pattern just to make sure, just to check before we went ahead and cut the 2x8. So here is my angle. It is a running 7.5, and the meaning of I don't know, I've just always heard it called a running 7.5, and I'll show you how to do that on the speed square. So to do a running 7.5, just find your square edge, line up the end of your square with it, go to your common, find 7.5, which is right here, and mark that. And then we will connect the dots, which will be here. But I did take my scrap piece and we'll line it up and do it that way. So I just made a scab, 22.5 inches for our layout, and beveled the top to match the pitch of this roof. So now we got to make a valley plate to set onto the roof decking. That way our rafters set on the valley plate, and we're not just relying on the decking. So I got a 2x10 and I'm going to rip a bevel on it. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I do to make sure you're straight, because the 2x10 is never just perfectly straight. So we're going to use the chalk line, and then we will cut that bevel to the chalk line. That way you know you have it straight and you're not trying to worm the board and all that crap. So we're going to take nearly a 1/4 inch out of the center of that thing, make it straight. So now they'll just screw down into the rafters, or the trusses rather, sorry. And then we will pull that out and set our rafters to that bevel, and it'll be stout. All right, we got our valley plates in. So that just creates a place where we can measure to, put down, and it's a solid backing for our decking to lay up against. So we'll string this rafter. I can see a string on there, and then they will pull layout off of that rafter, find where we go, and then we'll just measure. We'll get the layout on the ridge pole and then measure from point A to point B, cut them and put them in. And string the ridge pole as well. That way you know you're in or out. I got all the rafters on there, the valley's done. Now we're stringing this outside rafter to make sure it's straight so we can go ahead and install the fly rafter. Alright, so if you've got this roof plane and this roof plane and you're trying to find where it's going to come out, your valley is, we're going to use a straight edge and this roof plane. You hold that right there, bro. Go up some. And see how this roof planes out onto the fascia. So now here is our mark. This is our valley plane, or the roof plane over there, which would be where the valley is. So now we know from this point up to the point on that other fly rafter that we can measure, cut it, set it on here, and it'll be ready to go. No, down here. It looks good though. So to find where this valley is going to be, we'll take a chalk a line all the way across the top to the valley there, to where it meets the 812 right there, and then we will chalk a line or pull a string from up there to this point right here, and that will find our valley, and then we can tie these rafters into that. Go ahead and pop it though for you. So we're going to change up the way we're going to do this valley. I'm not going to use a valley plate like we did on that roof. I just use some blocking. We'll use some hidden blocking underneath, screwed from joist or rafter to rafter, in line with our layout for these rafters. So we'll just go ahead and deck everything. We'll put the zip roof on top of there, go all the way up, get all this filled in, then we'll pull our layout, and we'll chalk a line again from up our valley, and then pull our layout and then rafter, and it will hit on top of that blocking. Instead of, like I said, just relying on the zip roof, we have a structural wood element to fasten to, and it'll be really strong as hell. We just use some pieces of LVL, just some scrap we had. Alright, so check it out. We got the valley, and on the valley I like to bevel the plywood. That way you get a nice tight fit. And all I do to find that is just take a piece. You can bevel a piece, put it on there, and then like they did here, they just marked where they need to measure to. So then you after you get your initial field set, then you can just measure from there to your line, and that'll be your long point. Bevel your saw and go. So now that you bevel the valley, you can use a standard width zip tape. A lot of times they say you specify use a 6-inch zip tape, but If you do them tight like that, you don't have that huge gap. Like if you cut it square, you can use the standard width zip tape, and it will be basically 99% in the dry. I mean, it works really well. I've not had any issues with it, and it looks better too. So just pull that out and then measure from point A to point B. We got a chalk line up at the top, so we'll measure from that chalk line to this chalk line, and that will give us our valley jack rafter. All right, to fill. Smoke's there. Hit it again. But to find where your long point is, when I was talking about they just use a scrap piece. Just take a scrap piece, bevel it, set it on your roof plane here, and then just mark it. And that will give you your long point measurement all the way up through there, and you can measure too. And have a nice tight fit. So I'm cutting the valley sheathing, or the zip roof for the valley, and I'm beveling it. And I'm using the old track saw. Let's go. Let's do it. And yes, I got my hair did. Oh. So we've got a pretty sharp transition on the last piece of plywood that goes up onto the 812 from the 412. And I'm gonna make it with the table saw. We'll get the table saw out and make it. I got the blade beveled at 16.5 degrees, and I'm gonna run it edgewise, and we'll make a super sharp, acute, ain't it acute? Angle on the plywood. Die. Don't that look good? That look better. Big old gap. What is it? Bullets. Get your bullets. Beautiful. So now we have a minimal transition. We won't have to worry about water pooling up in there. So one more side to go. So now that our valley is so tight, we can use, like I stated earlier, you can use just the regular size tape. And man, it's sticky. If they'd have had this stuff on the Breakfast Club, damn, Emilio Estevez would have went to prison. So we jumped over on this side, got this side deck, so in the morning we'll get that little valley and all the rafters cut back in, and then deck this last part, and we will have all of the zip roof installed on Miss Susan's house. Looks pretty cool. Pretty tickled with it. I'm cutting a bevel for the valley on the zip roof, and the the track saw will only cut to about 48 degrees, 49 degrees, and I need just a little bit sharper bevel. So I'll go ahead and cut it as sharp as I can, and then I'll grab the planer. Planer works great, and we'll make it as sharp. We can make it as sharp as angle as you need it. So cut it what you can. Grab the planer, and I'll show you what we got. Sometimes I will measure the face of whatever I need. And the face, what I mean is this cut right here, the face cut. So say if we need a 1.5 inch face cut, I'll just take a line, just kind of give me a reference point, and then we'll just plane to that mark. There we have it, beautifully cut. All right, there was a little thing I didn't show you on the other side. When you do a valley like this where you don't have a plate solid like there, you need some sort of backer when your pieces meet on your seams. So we just took a piece of Advantech and ripped a 50 degree bevel on it, and then you just put it down to the bottom and screw it, and that way you've got a stable place for your plywood, your zip roof to set. All right, there it is, another super tight valley with the special bevel. Beautiful. Oh yeah, got that bird's eye view. Looking good. Go ahead and hit it from this angle too. Hit it from the back side. You know what I'm talking about. Oh man, that looks good. Really nice. Really nice. Love the zip system. I can't say it enough. The zip system is awesome because we can go ahead and wire. We can put electrical in there. We can plumb. We can get ready for insulation. Man, a lot of stuff with the zip system. Oh, we'll come around the front side too. We're getting high on the job. Literally getting high. Well, let's go. I'm just gonna give you a little one final look over. Beautiful. So while I'm up here, we'll just go ahead and we will end the video right here, right up on the roof. So that's it, y'all. That is my video on how we framed up a gable, a shed roof, front porch here on the Melton Farm project. So if you're just now joining us here on the W.K.D Construction channel, I thank you very much. And if you'd like to get caught up on what we have previously been doing, the back porch, the framing, everything up to the front porch, I'll put a link and you can go back and check out episode 1 where we start digging the footings. And for all of my other regular, consistent followers, man, I really appreciate it. I really do. I'm enjoying this. I really love this kind of social media, explaining kind of how to, I don't know, I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go, but I really do like this. And so I hope to be able to continue and just to keep new content, new homes, new projects, just coming at you. So once again, thank you very much. And oh, you see the Brunt Workwear hat? I got the Brunt Workwear shorts on. So if you like or maybe interested in some Brunt Workwear, check them out, bruntworkwear.com, and get you a purchase and enter W.K.D. 10, W.K.D. 10, and that will give you $10 off a $60 purchase. Once again, I'm Keith Dykes. This is the front porch on the Melton Farm project. Thanks for watching, and yep, as always, got it, coach.